You're listening to Rebel XL.
And now, Jet Li, where did that come from?
The name Jet Li, I started off as BOS, as in my name is Brian O'Sullivan. So I started off as BOS, then I called it BOS1 because I was always into hip hop from the likes of Boogie Down Production, KRS-One and Ice-T. As things progressed in, I wanted to kind of incorporate manga animation and stuff, and I also wanted to find a name that I could spell with the Japanese manga animation. So I ended up choosing Jet Li because he was kind of a short name with quite simple, effective, short for a poster, and it was easy to spell. And then, so I went along with Jet Li, but then the actor Jet Li came out. So everyone thinks I'm after naming myself after the actor. So even though it's probably his name, he screwed me badly.
Okay.
I wish I could change it now. I'm from an island off the coast of Ireland called Valentia Island, and I was kind of always into messing around with sound and speakers, and I kind of just over time found a couple of records that I really liked. I was never really into music that other people in school were into. I was never into bands, never liked watching soccer. It was kind of always the odd one out. And believe it or not, even in the drum and bass circle, I still feel like I'm the odd one out because I'm not really in that circle either. I'm kind of my own circle.
Okay.
And as a young fella, the first tune I ever bought that got me into music was called Pasta Duchy.
Oh wow.
For Musical Youth. And when I look back in the date, what I used to do, and I know when it was because we moved house to a bar on the island from a small house. And I used to call down every Wednesday where they used to empty all the jukeboxes from records. And I used to hang around so that I'd get the free records after they were played for in the jukebox. You could claim the records. I used to get a lot of crap and stuff. And the one record I found was Musical Youth Pasta Duchy. And I remember we had a record player with a little, back then everyone used to cover their school books in laminate, sticky back paper to keep the books for longer and stuff.
Oh yeah.
And we had a record player, my parents thought it was a dirty old thing, so they covered it with laminate.
Okay.
And there was a speaker in the front and it was a G, I'm sure it was. And so I started playing the A side for about a year before I found the B side. And when I look back on the date of that release, I was 8 years of age.
Wow.
So whatever way people's brains are wired, I believe, I hate house, I hate 4/4 tempo. I like the music in house, but I'm not into the beats. And I believe my brain is just wired, and I get goosebumps when I hear drum and bass beat. And what's this? I'm doing it over 20 years now, and I still get the vibe when I hear the beat. From there, then we moved. So I started DJing when, and this is the only way I can time frame it is from releases. And I was going out with a girl at the time, and I used to do the Youth Club discos. So we'd moved house. I'd found turntables, and I managed to put them together, and then I managed to find speakers and put speakers together. And I used to record stuff off of 2FM. There used to be a late show on MTV at the time, and I used to record on the tape, and then I used to play a tape player through the whole thing, and then play records and mix it all together. So one of my earliest experiences I know of DJing was when, and this is quite scary to an extent, when Bros was number one in When Will I Be Famous? And that's a long fucking time ago. So after that then I was always pushing the sound of hip hop and reggae and just more halftime beats. And when I was 16 years of age, I left home and went off to Manchester.
Oh wow.
So in Manchester then I found drum and bass, jungle at the time. And before jungle I was kind of into a lot of hardcore and Thunderdome. Did you ever hear Thunderdome series of CDs, like real fucking hardcore stuff? But what I used to do, there used to be records and CDs, and I used to kind of scrape the markings of the tunes that I liked.
Mm-hmm.
And when I listen back to all those tunes now, they all had a breakbeat in them.
Oh yeah.
So I was always marking the drum and bass beat, even though it wasn't drum and bass tempo at the time. I was always marking the drum and bass beat. So when I listen back, it's quite mad to see where I went from. So when I came back then from England at the age of 17, I started playing. I had also made my own transmitter, so I was transmitting to my 600 people on the island who hated what the fuck I was doing. But it's quite funny because if you equate it to inner city London, I was doing the same thing by myself in this island as they were doing with whatever means I had that was possible. So it's kind of weird how our psyche of the people who actually do it for the love of it, and it's kind of it's a very personal thing. I still do it because I love it. I suppose I've had a load of things happen. I've had Jungle Republic, I was involved in Fluids, I started Jungle Republic, then with Phase 2, then I started Sub-Era. I was very proud of the Sub-Era name because as opposed to Jet Li, I kind of wanted a name that stuck to me, and I felt that I was from the Sub-Era, so that's where the name came from, and then that didn't really work out too well for me, so this new night, District 174, again has a meaning. It's District 174, 174 is the tempo I produce drum and bass at. This, for me now, I'm hoping is the district of drum and bass in Cork for the foreseeable future to create a new scene. Well, actually, I have a photo that I'm trying to find at the moment, and it's quite a funny photo because I was wearing some blue kind of trousers and a white, not an Aaron jumper, I swear, but it wasn't far off it, and it was in a bar, and I must have been 14 or 16 or something like that.
Okay.
And I can't find the photo, and I want to find it and put it up on Facebook, and if I find it, I'll send it to you, but it's hilarious. So there were my first memories were playing brass when you had to play. I used to do gigs in the local town, and the reason I used to get the gigs is because I had the sound systems.
Okay.
So I put together speakers. They were quite shit, but they were better than what everyone else had.
Alright.
So I do gigs in bars, and I had to play commercial music.
Alright.
And then I was always pushing hip hop before drum and bass, and so I sacrifice maybe 2 hours of music. I'd play an hour and a half of what they wanted me to hear, and then they'd have to listen to drum and bass for the end, or hip hop, whatever I chose. So my early gigs, they were probably some of them were probably as good as some of the gigs I do now, and some were as bad as some of the gigs I do now. But that's part. I think I was abroad recently in Switzerland, and I've done gigs, in many places. And it can get very disappointing when you go and you do a gig and you don't really get the feedback or the vibe. And I kind of wonder sometimes, I'm 39 years of age now, I wonder why I'm still doing it. And I talked to a few friends, and what we came up with really is the highs are so high, and when you play music you love in front of people and you play your own tunes as well, and you get a reaction, the highs are really high.
Okay.
And when you're producing and you get a release or you make a tune, it doesn't even matter about release, it's a tune that you are happy with. The highs are so high, but then the lows are quite low.
Yeah.
And sometimes the lows can be longer than the highs. It's, I do a bit of painting and stuff as well, and I quite enjoy painting because I feel it's just something I do and I don't expect anything from it. But with music, I've been so long at it, I just, I still want to achieve more, Okay, for me, how the music scene in Cork has changed. A couple of the big things I find now, I'm going to start backwards. In today's environment, I have a 21-year-old stepson called Mark, and he's probably around your age.
Alright.
What I find from your age group is that you can get everything you need straight away on the internet, on YouTube.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I'm in a small venue there that only holds 150 people max, but I have 15,000 watts of power. I have 18-inch bins. I have a good solid sound system for a small area. And what I'm hoping, what I think that ye lack in your experience of music is, while you get everything on YouTube and everything done, it's in bad quality. So when you go out to a gig to listen to drum and bass or any form of music, you need to hear it in its full spectrum of its glory. So when you do a gig, or when I do a gig, I like the sound to be capable of its venue. So I feel you're not getting what we used to like. So I'm going to go back now before, where I was on an island. It was 6.5 hours drive to Dublin, but you could not hear music on the internet. There was no internet. So for me, I used to drive up in a car when I was 17 years of age, maybe not legally at times, up into Dublin. Maybe it was 18, 19 actually, now I think about it, because I was after coming back. So it was early. I can't remember, maybe 92, 93. Drive up 6.5 hours in the car to go to the kitchen or the funnel or wherever drum and bass do. The kitchen was kind of the first place to drum and bass in Ireland, and funnel followed very quickly after. And we used to arrive up pretty much by myself most of the time because no one wanted to listen to the jungle at the time. And I'd walk into the kitchen and I'd find music, I'd find what I wanted to hear. So you had to go to clubs. DJs only had the music. If you wanted to hear new music, you had to go to a club. You couldn't type it into your computer and get it. So the difference from there to now is that people like me, like yourselves, who dress a bit different, who don't fit into the lads in the fucking soccer pitch. I like playing soccer and stuff, but I don't like talking about soccer every 5 minutes.
Exactly.
You know, I'm not into bands where you have grunge, you have everything else. That's not my vibe. I'm into drum and bass. And people who were into that, there's a lot of them, and there still is a lot of them, but they get their fix at home, where we used to have to go out before and find it. And it was up to people like myself who were willing to promote it then to people and say, listen, look what you're missing out on, this is fucking amazing, you need to hear this. So I suppose the biggest killer nowadays in Cork, in my opinion, what kills the drum bass, what kills the music scene in Cork is the closing time is 2 o'clock. So people, it's too expensive and it's too short. So I do all my nights, I try and make them cheap. It still closes at 2 o'clock, but at least it's doable. I think if there was 4 o'clock in the morning, the club scene would be better. But whereas years ago, the biggest difference for me is that people needed to go out and find the music. Where now I can't get music much newer than another DJ who just started last year.
Yeah.
Other than my contacts I have with Calibre and Total Science and these people that I get fresh dub plates from. Realistically, it's only a couple of months before, whereas I remember going out to London to cut dub plates, flying over, like the work we used to do back then, flying over house to cut dub plates, to come back, and then, you know, we'd have new music, and we'd have that for about a year or two before anyone else would even know the tune is there.
Alright.
So that's the big difference, I think, is, you know, you can go online now and you can type in a Fabric mix or a Fabric radio show, and it's there for you whenever you want to hear it, not just on a Saturday night or whatever, it's there all the time. Through your small speakers at home.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, you're not getting the, like in my studio at home, you spend so much time recording on 24-bit, and you know, you spend making everything clean and sound lovely and stuff.
Yeah.
And then people are downloading MP3s and they're listening to it on their stereos. That's grand, but they're not hearing the full body of music. It's very hard today. I think people need to. There's a lot of DJs. There's a lot of different ways of DJing. Again, it's kind of. I think sometimes the way forward is going backwards. Like you can DJ on Tractor and you can DJ on even the new CDJ 2000s. There's a sync button. There's a master tempo button. The difference I find about the master tempo button, I kind of I had it for a while. I had it on my CDJs. I was using it, and the difference is that the sound is too digital. So if you produce a tune in G minor and you use this master tempo and you speed it up by 5% or 2% or whatever you want to speed it up by, it'll stay in G minor, but it's stretched and it just sounds weird. While if you don't use a master tempo and you speed it up by a few percent, you're not going into the next key, you're in between keys. And I feel when I listen to mixes of my own that I would have done for a while with the master tempo, I was like, there's something missing there. It just doesn't sound like, I don't like them, it doesn't sound like they used to sound. And I took the switch off, and I think the human here, we love the sound of G minor and A major and A minor, but if it's slightly off that note, our attentions our brain is engaged, we're like, oh, what's that? So I feel that people who use the sync and stuff, it's actually too digital. If there's a slight movement or it's slightly off, we mightn't notice it, but our brains notice it.
Okay.
I think that's a very, very important thing for, you know, I think you need to, if someone's playing with a sync button, they're going up, even with the CDJs now, it's quite easy to beat match. Once they're on time, they're on time. With vinyl, there's always a fluctuation.
Oh yeah.
You know, it moves slightly even throughout, and you're always touching. And I think, you know, you're engaged. You're engaged yourself and it makes you think more, it makes you interact with the crowd more, and you enjoy it more, other than just playing sync and bringing the next tune. But as a result, now I find my sets, whereas before it was a lot more on the fly. Now you have to put sets together. You have to make sure the music is taking you somewhere, and is a bit more educational. When I mean educational, I mean educated putting together of take you through keys and having a journey. Whereas before it wasn't as important. You could beat mix and find before. It didn't matter what tune was coming on next. Wow, he could beat mix. Now anyone can beat mix, so you have to have something. I think you have to have yourself in it. Like, I play music I like. I'm probably the best DJ in the world for myself because I only play tunes I like. You know, whereas I listen to the best DJ in the world, I mightn't like some of his tunes.
Yeah.
But for me, I enjoy all my music. I think you have to have your own style. If you don't, you'll get a lot of DJs who will play drum and bass for a while, and they'll go to dubstep and they'll go to techno and stuff. While that's good, they enjoy the DJing form of it.
Yeah.
I don't think they're putting themselves into it.
Okay.
You know, okay, I might be narrow-minded there in that respect, because maybe there's people out there who love techno and drum and bass and love deeply playing all that form of music. I just personally can't do that.
And you were just listening to Jet Li with his interview. This was Rebel XL. Thank you for watching.
You're listening to Rebel XL.